Anti-Trump protesters have hit the streets across America this week, and they rallied under the guide of what the late Georgia congressman and civil rights leader John Lewis called, quote unquote, good trouble. But the good part of the trouble is missing when it comes to targeting federal agents who are doing their jobs. Here is Chicago's Democrat mayor speaking at a protest in his city.
Let me make something absolutely clear in the most emphatic way. We will not cooperate with ICE. We will not be intimidated by the militarized force that Donald Trump has put before us.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has been working overtime, you might say, to fight ICE operations in her city. She's pushing to make sure we know the identity of the agents.
We also are filing a Freedom of Information Act because we want to know who these masked men are. We want to know where the people are that they're detaining. Do you know they've detained hundreds of people? Families don't know where their loved ones are. They don't know if they're in Los Angeles, California, or even in the United States.
ICE fired right back with this. Mayor Bass, our officers wear masks because rhetoric like yours has ramped up threats and assaults against their families. They're doing their job and detaining illegal aliens who broke immigration law. Enough of the fear-mongering for political attention. DHS reports assaults on ICE agents are up 830% from a year ago. And just this week, an illegal alien from Honduras dragged an ICE agent for nearly a block, dragging him on the ground with a car as he tried to escape custody in Oklahoma. And this is some of the injury to that ICE agent. Last week, a mob of rioters was throwing rocks at ICE agents, executing a criminal search warrant in Southern California. Some of their most dangerous work is executing those search warrants, and you can see why. One agent's injuries sent him to the emergency room. I want to bring in now border czar for the White House, Tom Homan. Tom, these pictures do more than just make you angry. They let you know the price of trying to clean up what we've been left by open borders.
You're exactly right, and you're right in your statement that this rhetoric is causing this hateful response to ICE. You know, comparing ICE to Nazis and racists and terrorist organizations. And I said 2 months ago, Harris, that if this rhetoric didn't stop, there would be bloodshed. Of course, the left went crazy on that statement, but unfortunately, I was right. One man was killed when he attacked a Border Patrol facility in Texas, and another group of armed men ambushed a facility in Texas, an ICE facility, where one officer was shot in the neck. And it's not over with. I mean, unless this rhetoric stops, you're going to see more. And it's because of hateful rhetoric by the Democrats and those that are mayors and governors and members of Congress. It has to stop. Because the truth, they're shielding the truth of American people. I'm tired of reading the news reports that majority of people in ICE detention aren't criminals. The fact is the majority are criminals. And who are the others? Others are national security threats that we're detaining because they're not going to walk the streets of this nation. May not have a criminal conviction, but they're national security threat. Others are expedited removal cases that by federal statute we must detain. Of course, those facts don't make it to the media. They say that most people we arrest aren't criminals and public safety arrests. The fact are, I looked at the numbers the other day, had 130,000 arrests, 90,000 were criminals, which is, what's that, 69 point, almost 70%. So the facts are the facts, but the media's not sharing the facts from American people. And you add that to the rhetoric from these politicians, and that's why you're seeing the attacks on ICE skyrocket.
Look, I have to talk about this ripping of identity covering off the faces of ICE agents who are under physical threat right now versus the criminals and the illegal aliens who are here, former gang members, some of them still in gangs, MS-13 just roaming our streets as that. Why did they get to mask up, but our agents, according to the leader of Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, why do our ICE agents need to take their masks off and endanger themselves and their families?
You're exactly right. Where's the legislation to remove masks from the protesters to become criminals? The protesters, they become criminals. They threw Molotov cocktails at officers. Where's the legislation on unmasking BLM and the other rioters that attacked ICE facilities, like in Portland. They're all wearing masks. All those criminals in Portland that are attacking ICE facilities, they're all wearing masks. Where's this legislation on that? You don't see it. The Antifa, they can wear masks, no legislation on that. Look, President Trump made it clear the other day, when I spoke to President Trump, it's over. You throw a stone at an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You put hands on an ICE officer, you're going to jail. You impede an ICE officer from doing his job, you're going to jail. Here's what American people need to know. ICE is enforcing the laws that Congress enacted. So if that makes them a racist, what does that make Congress, who wrote the law? So you got members of Congress attacking ICE who wrote a law that Congress funds ICE to enforce, and they're doing exactly what Congress told them to do and gives them money to do. Then the other part of the equation is they're executing final orders issued by a federal judge. A federal judge has determined this person can't be here, he must be deported, so they're executing those orders. ICE is doing their job as mandated by Congress, as mandated by the federal courts, as mandated by federal statute. If you don't like it, then change the law. But ICE agents every day are taking public safety threats off the street, national security threats off the street. Every day, ICE is making this country safer, and that's just a stone cold fact.
All right, I want to move to this. According to reports, 7,500 unaccompanied migrant children have been tracked down under the Trump administration. Look, you have told me for the longest time, almost the entire presidency of Joe Biden, that this was your dedication, to find those children. Well, under Biden, DHS data show agents encountered nearly 500,000 children at the border on their own. Reports at the time suggested some 300,000 of them had gone missing. In fact, DHS Secretary at the time, Mayorkas, said he had no idea where the 300,000 kids were. You have been passionate about this, and you're moving the needle. Tell me about it.
Well, the Biden administration, not only they lose over 300,000, they weren't looking for them. President Trump committed from day one, on top of the mass deportation and having the most secure border in history of this nation, President Trump also instructed us, go find these kids. Because we know some of these kids are in forced labor. We know some of these kids are in forced sex trafficking, and we found some, unfortunately, in those conditions. We found many with their families. But we're going to find every one of these children and make sure they're safe. And, we'll deal with the immigration consequences down the road, but the first and the priority of these children is rescuing those that are in forced labor and forced trafficking, making sure they're safe. Something the last administration didn't do. They want to talk Trump 45, separating families. You just spoke about 500,000 kids coming across the border who were separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled in this country. That's where real family separation happens. Family separation also happens. The hundreds of angel moms and dads that I met that buried their children because they were murdered by someone that Joe Biden released into the streets of this country.
The job is mighty. You have agents still willing to do the job. I want to give the last few seconds to you, Tom Homan, to talk directly to those men and women who stay on the job even under threat now, because I hate to think what happens if they sit down.
Look, I've done this since 1984 here. So I started as a Border Patrol agent. I'm proud to wear that uniform. I was an ICE agent. I was the first acting ICE director that actually came up through the ranks. I love the men and women of Border Patrol and ICE. They're the finest people in this nation. They're patriots. They put a gun on their hip every day and put a badge in their chest and put themselves in harm's way for little or no money. I want the American people to understand they're doing the job that they took an oath to do. And let's remember, they're moms and dads too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day they come to work. They see terrible, terrible things they take home to them every day. They have issues too. They're seeing the most terrible of human nature out there, but they're dealing with every day making this country safe. God bless the men and women of ICE. God bless you, Border Patrol agents. You're doing America's work.
And God bless you, Tom Homan, for keeping us safe. Thank you. Outnumbered after the break.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.